everybody, and welcome to Runaway with Liz. I'm Liz, and during the first week of October, my husband and I walked the Nakahechi trail of the Kumano Kodo pilgrimage in Japan. In this video, I'm sharing with you everything that we packed for our 5-night, 6-day hike, and review what did and didn't work for us, and if we'd do anything differently if we were to hike the Kumano Kodo again. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you find this video helpful if you're packing for your own future Kumano Kodo hike. And I should also mention before we get into it that this trip was split into 2 different activities. We were doing regular sightseeing in cities, and we were going to hike. So we decided to store everything we didn't need for the duration of the hiking portion in our carry-on size luggage at a luggage storage facility in Osaka called Daikoku Locker. And then after we were finished with our hike, we took a train back to Osaka and picked up the rest of our luggage there. So this isn't a packing list for our entire trip to Japan. It is only a packing list for hiking the Kumano Kodo. Let's begin. We'll begin with clothing. So for tops, I packed along 2 shirts, 1 short sleeve athletic shirt and 1 long sleeve shirt that was a button up that could be layered over the athletic tee. For pants, I packed 1 pair of pants. They were convertible shorts pants, but I never took advantage of that feature. I only used them as pants. It was unseasonably hot during our fall hike, but I would still wear pants no matter what season we were hiking the Kumano Kodo because we did see snakes and plenty of ground leeches while hiking. And on that note, I also treated our pants, shirts, socks, shoes, buff, and backpacks with permethrin prior to the trip for mosquitoes and ticks, and I think that could have been part of the reason we weren't bit by any leeches either, unlike some of the other hikers that we came across. I packed 2 sports bras along, and 2 pairs of underwear for each day, 1 for day and 1 for night for the whole hike, the entire time. I don't have a problem wearing the same shirt 5 days in a row, even though it was soaked in sweat and it probably smelled awful, but underwear is a different story. And I'm not a fan of hand washing my underwear in a sink because it just never feels properly clean. So if I can avoid that by packing enough underwear to get me between laundry machines, you can bet I'm doing that. I also packed 5 pairs of socks, 1 for each day. Again, I like a properly clean pair of socks for hiking if I can help it. I'm not such a diva about hand washing socks, but I still prefer a laundry machine because dirty socks can lead to more foot issues like blisters. As far as sock brands, I am a fan of the Darn Tough socks. I especially like their running socks, yes, even for hiking. For pajamas, I only packed 1 PJ bottom, a pair of shorts, and 1 PJ top. And the idea for the top was that it could also be used as a daytime shirt if I needed it to be. And the pajama shorts and t-shirt were also nice to wear underneath the yukata that the accommodations would provide for us. Ultimately, we did do laundry once, but we actually had the opportunity to do laundry twice at Guest House Hausen in Chikatsuyu and Shizo no Ie in Koguchi. All right, shoes. For shoes, I packed along hiking boots. I don't regret it. We did see other people wearing running shoes and trail running shoes for this hike, so you could probably get by with that. Obviously, you can get by with that because other people were doing it, but if you ask me, I would definitely stick to hiking boots with good ankle support because some of the terrain is pretty technical. I also packed along a pair of rubber flip-flops. I actually didn't wear these flip-flops even once because every accommodation provided slippers for walking around the facility. Moving on to outerwear, we'll start with the buff, which as I said earlier was treated with permethrin. I wore it around my neck or around my hair for prevention of pests like ticks on the back of my neck or in my hair. A very light jacket. I don't think I used this lightweight jacket once on this trip, but I'm not upset that I had it along because it was so lightweight that I hardly felt it. And like I said earlier, this was an unseasonably hot stretch, and there was no reason for me to assume that I wouldn't have needed it on this hike. I packed sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat for sunny days, and rain ponchos. I had 1 heavy rain poncho and 1 lightweight one, and I can't actually remember if I brought both along, but I did for sure bring the heavier rain poncho, and while it rained overnight once, making slippery trail conditions the next day, it didn't rain on us at all during the day. But that's just how it goes. If I hadn't packed the heavy, bulky poncho, it would have for sure rained hard the whole time. And then moving on to some miscellaneous objects, I packed a refillable water bottle. I don't think I should have to explain that one. A rechargeable headlamp in case it got dark. We ended up not using the headlamp at all, but it was really nice to have along because it did get dark in the mountains very early. And if we had gotten held up for whatever reason, we'd have had a problem if we were stuck on a mountain hiking path in the dark. I packed a compass whistle, just a handy little tool to have along. And then a sewing kit and a travel pack of duct tape in case our clothes or our backpacks got a tear in them that needed quick patching up. a very lightweight head net for insects, and insect repellent wipes. I didn't use the head net at all, but we did use the insect repellent wipes. I hate pesky mosquitoes, and I've been bit by a deer tick before, so I'm conditioned to have some form of DEET packed along anytime I'm recreating outside. And I don't know how summer would be, but mosquitoes actually weren't a problem for us on the Kumano Kodo, but I think it's always a good idea to have insect repellent for ticks and possible mosquitoes. I found these off-brand, not generic brand, but the brand off wipes at Target, and I love them for traveling. They're so much easier to pack and more convenient than bringing a bottle of pump or aerosol bug spray. I also packed along a mini first aid kit, and this is just a little first aid kit for minor aches and pains and scrapes, cuts, bug bites, blisters, that sort of thing. It included a travel-sized container of ibuprofen, Benadryl, some blister band-aids like Compeed or the Band-Aid brand for blister band-aids, disinfecting alcohol wipes, large band-aids, and a small roll of medical tape. And I'm glad I brought this along, and Tony was actually very grateful for the ibuprofen because he actually threw his back out on this trip. And between the ibuprofen and continuous movement, he was able to get through the rest of this hiking trip. I brought hand sanitizer, which I was very glad to have along because for how clean Japan generally is, there is not always soap in the public bathrooms. And some sunscreen, particularly for the face and the neck, since that was mainly what would be exposed on this trip. I also packed disposable masks and some N95 disposable masks. We didn't use these, but I still pack masks along anytime I travel in case Tony and I were to get sick on a trip. And moving on to toiletries. I know toiletries are super personal, so this might or might not relate to you, but this is what I brought along. I brought my contacts, contact case, glasses case, and contact solution. I know I could significantly reduce my toiletry bulk by just wearing my glasses, but I just prefer contacts, especially while being active and in the wilderness, because I always think of that scene in The Mummy where one of the guys loses his glasses and then he can't see, and then the mummy, I'd hate to spoil a movie that's only, a quarter century old. I packed my toothbrush, toothpaste, floss, and a small amount of soft picks. Most of the accommodations actually provided some disposable toothbrushes and a small tube of toothpaste. However, I am a little bit particular about my dental hygiene, so I did not use what was provided by the hotel. It's just hard to go back to a regular toothbrush once you've used an electric toothbrush. A shampoo bar, and a face/body soap bar. The brand was Cetaphil that I brought along. Deodorant, a razor, and acne spot cream because I didn't bring makeup on this trip and I'd rather just have something to help blemishes heal quickly. And honestly, if you're thinking about bringing makeup, just don't. And I'm not anti-wearing makeup while hiking or working out. I'm not. It's just that it's so humid in Japan. It's just going to melt right off your face. I mean, I guess there's waterproof mascara, but I still just think you're better off leaving it in storage with the rest of your luggage during your hike. I also bring face moisturizer that has sunscreen in it, and my face moisturizer is actually stored in a little hotel bath gel container that I took from a hotel. It's just a nice, convenient, slim shape that's more convenient than the container that my moisturizer comes in. And a sunscreen lip balm. And feminine hygiene products because history has proven that nature will always call at the most inconvenient of times. And that's it for toiletries. Let's move on to electronics. My Garmin to keep time and track my activities. My GoPro. I brought my GoPro to film rather than my Pocket 2 because it's just a little bit sturdier if I were to drop it. My iPhone for things like checking the weather or using the Google Translate app, or to get alerts in the case of national emergencies like an earthquake or a tsunami. And a Kindle for reading at night. And with all of these things, of course, I brought the charging cord and a brick for charging. And if you're in the US, you actually don't need an adapter to go to Japan because it is the same outlets. And moving on to quote-unquote important things and paper products, I brought along a little folder to keep my important things organized. For example, my passport, credit cards, and cash. Most stuff was paid for ahead of time, but it is good to have some cash on hand. I always bring copies of my passport and a secondary ID, which are things we'd need if our passport were stolen. I also brought the Kumano Kodo guidebook, which was really handy to have along. It had info about each of the areas we were hiking through, plants, animals, and etiquette info, like what side of your yukata to fold over first, which we did wrong for the first couple of days before we read about it. It's kind of heavy to bring a book, but it really did enrich our trip to have it to consult throughout the hike. I also brought the Nakahechi trail map, which we looked at all the time on our hike to check things like elevation, rest stops, and where the next stamp was going to be for our dual pilgrim passport. And speaking of stamps, we also brought along our dual pilgrim passport to collect the stamps along the Kumano Kodo, and we also brought along our pilgrim passport from hiking the Camino de Santiago in Spain so that we could get our dual pilgrim certificate. I brought Lara bars to snack on during the hike. I really like Lara bars because they are very, very dense. And as for packing strategies, I packed everything in separate Ziploc bags to keep things separate and dry in case it had rained. And I used the LL Bean packable day pack. It's obviously not a perfect hiking backpack. It is a day pack and it's unstructured, but it did have a chest strap and a waist strap, and it served our purpose as both a hiking backpack and a day pack for sightseeing in Japanese cities. And I think forcing us to pack to the size of a day pack was a good challenge, and it certainly kept us from overpacking for this hike. And with all the mountain hiking, I personally would have hated to have a heavier pack in addition to the challenging elevation gain. And something obvious that is missing from this list is hiking poles. Tony and I only did carry-on to fly to Japan, and we didn't want to risk our hiking poles getting taken from TSA, so we opted to buy hiking poles in Osaka, and then we checked them separately for the flight home. And while packing up the hiking poles to check them at the airport, we did use the travel-size duct tape to wrap them up in a secure way. And that's it for this packing list. I hope that you found this video helpful while planning your Kumano Kodo hike. I know I really enjoy making these videos because it's always helpful for me to go through and review my packing strategy and what I did right and wrong so that I can do better next time. If you did like this video, I encourage you to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more videos on travel, running, and other things I just think are fun that I want to share. Thank you so much for watching and take care. See you next time.